15% of men across this nation claim they don't have any close friendships. Back in 1990, that figure stood at just 3%. We witnessed a jump from 3 to 15 within a single generation. This isn't merely data on a chart. This represents a genuine emergency. And if you're viewing this right now, odds are you fall within that 15%. My age is 88 years. I operated cargo locomotives for Union Pacific across 38 years of service. I've experienced isolation beyond what most individuals could fathom. Isolated inside a locomotive cabin at 2 o'clock in the morning, traversing the Medicine Bowl Range with only the diesel motor, the darkness, and my personal reflections as companions. I understand what isolation feels like. I recognize the distinction between isolation and loneliness. And I'm about to share what I discovered because I nearly perished from lacking this knowledge. My spouse Margaret departed 6 years back. Our marriage lasted 54 years. And following her passing, I uncovered something devastating about my own nature. I hadn't learned how to exist alone. I had accumulated decades inside that locomotive cabin without company, yet I had never truly experienced solitude because I consistently had Margaret waiting at home. She constituted my complete social existence. She monitored the birthdays, the special occasions, the neighbors' identities. She handled the telephone conversations and organized the gatherings and preserved the relationships. I simply appeared wherever she instructed me to appear. Following her death, I possessed nothing. I mean absolutely nothing. I couldn't prepare anything for myself beyond basic scrambled eggs. I didn't possess a single companion I could telephone. My sons reside in Texas and Oregon, and they've established their own existences. I remained in my recliner for nearly 12 months, watching television programs and anticipating death. I dropped 22 pounds. My physician informed me I was destroying myself. I responded, I understand. Now I need to discuss with you what transpired following that moment because I remain here. I'm 88 years old and I exist alone inside this residence, and I'm no longer anticipating death. Something transformed, and this transformation is what I wish to explain to you. The initial lesson I needed to grasp is that there exists a distinction between existing alone and experiencing loneliness. These aren't identical concepts. You can find yourself surrounded by individuals and feel profoundly lonely. You can exist by yourself and experience no loneliness whatsoever. Loneliness isn't determined by whether other individuals occupy the space. Loneliness centers on whether you maintain a relationship with your own self. Now that concept sounds peculiar, a relationship with your own self, but consider it carefully. If you possessed a companion, someone you intended to spend every minute of every day with for your remaining lifetime, what would you desire from that individual? You would desire someone truthful, someone who communicates reality even when it creates discomfort, someone who refuses to deceive you and permit you to accept falsehoods. You would desire someone supportive, someone who recognizes potential and carefully motivates you toward improvement. You would desire someone compassionate, someone who acknowledges your shortcomings and your errors and doesn't condemn you for them eternally. That represents what you must become for yourself. Because here stands the reality that nobody communicates to young men particularly. You represent the single individual who will accompany you every solitary instant of your existence until you perish. Every other connection is temporary. Your parents will pass away. Your spouse could pass away first or could depart. Your children will relocate away. Your companions will arrive and depart. But you will exist there every morning upon awakening and every evening when retiring to sleep. You are the single companion from whom you cannot flee. And if you aren't someone you desire to exist alone with, you possess a serious problem. I wasn't someone I desired to exist alone with. That initial year following Margaret's death, I despised existing inside my own consciousness. I would activate the television the instant I awakened, not because I desired to view programming, but because I couldn't tolerate the quiet. I couldn't tolerate remaining alone with my personal reflections, because my personal reflections were horrible. They overflowed with regret and self-condemnation and all the actions I should have performed differently, and all the ways I had disappointed. You understand, I had invested 54 years delegating my emotional existence to my spouse. She represented the one who confirmed I was performing adequately. She represented the one who pardoned me when I failed. She represented the one who motivated me to continue forward. When she passed away, I possessed zero capabilities for performing those functions for myself. I was 79 years old, and I had never discovered how to become my own companion. Therefore, I needed to discover, and I'm about to share what I discovered because I believe many of you need to receive it. The initial step is you must communicate truth to yourself. Not harsh truth, not condemning yourself, simply honest truth. You must cease pretending you represent something you aren't. You must cease deceiving yourself regarding what you've accomplished and who you are. I needed to confront the reality that I had been an inadequate father. I labored excessively. I was absent for days, consecutively operating the railroad. And when I was present at home, I was exhausted and I didn't provide my boys the focus they required. I needed to confront that reality, not to condemn myself, but because you cannot feel comfortable with someone who deceives you constantly, and that includes your own self. But here stands the crucial element. Following your communication of truth to yourself, you must pardon yourself. You must declare, yes, that wasn't acceptable, but I am a human being and I performed the best I could with what I understood at that moment. And I'm not that individual anymore if I select not to be. If you're remaining alone with yourself and all you accomplish is condemn yourself over the past, you're never going to desire to exist alone with yourself. You're going to escape from solitude into any distraction you can locate: television programs, alcohol consumption, harmful relationships, anything to avoid the voice inside your head that refuses to cease criticizing you. I needed to discover how to demonstrate kindness toward myself. That sounds gentle, it sounds feeble. I am an elderly railroad worker who labored through blizzards and train accidents, and I'm communicating to you that discovering how to demonstrate kindness toward yourself represents one of the most challenging tasks a man can undertake, because we aren't instructed to. We're instructed to be tough and persevere and never express complaints, and there exists value in that. But there exists a distinction between being tough and being, and numerous men are harsh toward themselves in ways they would never be harsh toward another individual. The second lesson I discovered is that you must become someone you admire, not someone other individuals admire. someone you admire, because you're going to exist alone with yourself. And if you don't admire the individual you are, that time alone is going to be torturous. What does that signify? It signifies you must accomplish difficult tasks. It signifies you must honor promises to yourself. It signifies you must construct something, acquire knowledge about something, contribute something. Following Margaret's passing, I instructed myself in cooking. I was 79 years old, and I had never prepared anything more complex than canned chili. I purchased a cookbook, and I commenced preparing genuine meals. Roasted chicken, beef stew, dishes Margaret used to prepare. It required months to become competent at it. I destroyed more food than I consumed. But I was accomplishing something. I was developing a capability. I was becoming someone who could maintain himself, and that provided me a justification to admire myself. I commenced walking every morning, regardless of the weather conditions. I reside in Wyoming. There's abundant weather, but I rise and I walk 2 miles before breakfast because I made a commitment to myself that I would, and I honor commitments to myself identically as I would honor a commitment to anyone else. Because if you don't honor commitments to yourself, you forfeit admiration for yourself. And if you don't admire yourself, you cannot tolerate existing alone with yourself. The third lesson is you must discover something to accomplish that holds significance, not something that generates income or impresses individuals, something that holds significance to you, something that motivates you out of bed each morning. For me, it's constructing model trains. That probably sounds ridiculous. I'm 88 years old, and I invest hours in my basement working on a model railroad configuration. But it provides me something to accomplish with my hands and my mind. It connects me to the labor I performed for 40 years. When I'm working on that configuration, I'm not experiencing loneliness, I'm resolving challenges, I'm generating something. What holds significance isn't what the activity represents. What holds significance is that you possess one. Because human beings aren't designed to remain idle and accomplish nothing. We're designed to labor and generate and contribute. When you cease performing those functions, you begin to perish. I intend that literally. The research demonstrates that individuals who possess a sense of purpose survive longer than individuals who don't. It's not simply about experiencing positive emotions, it's about biology. Your body recognizes when you've surrendered and it begins terminating functions. Following my commencement of cooking and walking and working on my trains, I observed something. I wasn't dreading the mornings anymore. I wasn't remaining in that recliner, wishing I was deceased. I still missed Margaret. I will miss her until I perish. But the loneliness wasn't overwhelming me the way it had been, because I had become someone I could tolerate existing alone with. Now I wish to discuss something additional, because discovering how to exist alone isn't identical to abandoning other individuals. There's considerable discussion these days about young men experiencing loneliness, about men not possessing friends, about men retreating from society. And I comprehend it. I comprehend the temptation to declare, fine, I don't require anyone. I will simply exist by myself. That's not what I'm communicating to you. What I'm communicating to you is that you need the capability to exist alone before you can exist with others in a healthy manner. Because if you cannot tolerate existing alone with yourself, you will attach to relationships that damage you. You will remain with individuals who treat you poorly, because existing with them is superior to existing with yourself. You will accept circumstances you shouldn't accept because you're desperate for any connection whatsoever. When you can exist alone, when you can be your own companion, you gain the capability to select your relationships instead of requiring them. And that transforms everything. I possess friends now, not numerous, but quality ones. I attend breakfast every Tuesday and Thursday at the truck stop on Dell Range. There are 6 of us elderly individuals who gather there. We consume coffee and express complaints about politics and discuss the weather and what aches today. It's not profound emotional sharing. We're elderly men from Wyoming. We don't perform that. But it's connection, it's community, it's a reason I possess those friendships because I don't require them. And that might sound contradictory, but it's accurate. I can appear to that breakfast and be myself because I'm not desperate for their approval. I'm not attaching to them to fill a vacancy. I have performed the labor of filling my own vacancy. Therefore, I can be present with them instead of requiring them. Men aren't skilled at forming friends following a certain age. I recognize this. The research demonstrates it, and my own experience validates it. We construct friendships through activities, through labor, through shared projects. We aren't skilled at sitting down and discussing our emotions, and that's acceptable. You don't need to become someone you aren't. But you do need to make an attempt. You need to appear somewhere consistently. You need to be willing to communicate with strangers. You need to accept that it's awkward and uncomfortable and perform it anyway. I almost didn't attend that initial breakfast at the truck stop. I remained in my truck in the parking area for 20 minutes, attempting to convince myself against it. I was 79 years old and terrified of walking into a space full of strangers. But I performed it because I recognized that if I didn't, I was going to perish alone in that recliner and nobody would discover me for days. There's something additional I wish to communicate to the young men viewing this, because I read what's being written about young men and loneliness, and some of it concerns me. Don't permit your loneliness to transform into bitterness. Don't permit it to transform into hatred. I observe young men who are so furious at the world, at women, at society, because they're lonely and they don't understand what to do about it. And I comprehend the fury. Loneliness inflicts pain. It's a physical pain. It's as damaging to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes daily. That's what the research demonstrates. Therefore, the pain is genuine. But the solution is not to destroy the world. The solution is to become someone worthy of connection. Not to demand that others connect with you. Not to blame others for your isolation. But to perform the labor of becoming an individual that people desire to be around. That signifies being honest. That signifies being kind. That signifies being reliable. That signifies contributing instead of simply taking. And it signifies being patient, because connection requires time. Friendships don't form overnight. Trust doesn't develop in a week. You need to appear over and over again, month after month, year after year, before relationships deepen into something meaningful. There are no shortcuts. I've existed alone for 6 years now, truly alone, in a manner I wasn't for the initial 79 years of my existence. And I can communicate to you that it's survivable. It's more than survivable. There's a kind of peace within it that I didn't anticipate. I awaken when I desire. I consume what I desire. I invest my time how I select. I answer to no one except myself. There are worse fates. But I needed to labor for that peace. I needed to become someone I could tolerate existing alone with. I needed to discover purpose and routine and discipline. I needed to force myself out of that recliner and into the world. It didn't transpire by accident, and it didn't transpire overnight. You can accomplish this. Whatever age you are, whatever situation you occupy, you can discover how to be your own companion. You can discover how to communicate truth to yourself with kindness. You can discover how to pardon yourself and admire yourself and maintain yourself. You can construct an existence that doesn't depend on other individuals while still leaving space for other individuals within it. It commences with a decision. Are you going to remain in the recliner and anticipate death? Or are you going to rise and exist? I remained in that recliner for nearly 12 months before I made my decision. I hope it doesn't require you that duration. Margaret would be proud of me, I think. She consistently declared I was too stubborn to surrender. Turns out she was correct about that at minimum. I'm 88 years old and I remain here, and I'm not anticipating death anymore. That's something. Perhaps it's sufficient.